like I'm rapping because of how fast I say it.
I'm in.
Looks like we got two people, Mr. Dylan and Mr. Kent. Mr. Dylan, how old are you?
Yo, Dean. I just gotta say something real quick, bro. Yo, I just want to take a political break.
How old?
Show you my Honda Civic.
Very nice Honda Civic, man. Mr. Kent, how old are you?
19.
19. Jesus is king. You know, I bet you're gonna be a great, nice guy. You know, Mr. Kent, take it away. Why? Don't tell me you're a Trump supporter, right? With that bio,
Yes,
being a good
course.
Christian. Oh, unfortunate, man. Unfortunate. Take it away. Why do you support such a terrible president? You got my attention.
To begin with, to just harp on that guy that was talking earlier, he's an idiot. I don't know what he was talking about with the tariffs. That's so stupid.
You know, let's be kind to our guests. You know, we're supposed to turn the other cheek. You know, be
Well,
kind,
he
be
misrepresented the Trump supporters for sure. We're not all that dumb. But so basically, the main reasons why.
You're on pause, man. When you leave the live, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, my bad. The main reasons why the oil prices specifically have dropped in the last 5-6 months is one. Trump has made like specific, what would you call it? Specifically important for OPEC to produce more oil. And as you would know, more oil means lower prices, supply and demand. That's very obvious. Okay, so that's one of the main reasons why. But on top of that, he settled the war in the Middle East, which makes lower tensions, makes more production. That's a very easy thing to read into. I don't really know where you're getting on the barrels per day. I've never read that in any economic, whatever you call it, opinion. But those are two big reasons: Middle East tensions and him forcing OPEC, or not forcing, but increasing supply on OPEC when he went and met with them in the Middle East. So.
Yeah, when he met in Saudi Arabia, I never read anything about a deal to increase the output of OPEC.
It's not a deal.
Okay, so if it wasn't a deal, then how do we know that he was able to get OPEC to increase their supply?
Okay, so it was actually just, hold on. I was just reading this. Wish I had like multiple screens like you. That'd be way easier.
Yeah. You know, something else that's important to consider here is that if, you know, OPEC is making more oil, OPEC is selling more oil, this would mean like an increase in our imports, right?
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah,
no, that's not
necessarily, because all like yes. That
no,
is what
okay, so all right.
What are you talking about?
It's a very simple economic idea. Okay, if they have more oil, if they have 1 billion barrels of oil in their supply, it's a lower price per barrel. That is the supply and demand relationship. It costs them money to have the barrels on hand. So yes, not necessarily. We do not have to raise imports to have the same prices.
Right,
lower.
Because oil imports have fallen by by a whole lot.
Doesn't matter. That does not matter at all. Actually,
they're still importing more at lower prices.
Yes, that's exactly what that means.
Right. But if we have a massive, you know, we also know about supply and demand in the domestic market. If we have a massive reduction in their imports of oil, then the domestic supply of oil is higher or lower.
You're saying like internally. You're saying the oil in America?
The domestic supply of oil in America, is that higher or lower if we have lower imports?
I don't know. I haven't looked into that. I would assume it would be higher.
No, it'd be lower. Right. That's why we saw very sharp increases in the price of gasoline in America when Russia started ethnically cleansing Ukraine. It's because we sanctioned Russian oil. We cut them off. We stopped importing their shit. We became a net exporter, but the impact of this on Americans was higher gas prices. Same thing with the deal that Trump was able to negotiate with OPEC in 2020 to get them to reduce their output by 10%. Now, about a deal in his second term to get OPEC to produce more, I certainly haven't heard anything about that. And
it wasn't actually a deal.
Told us earlier that they did. Okay, so there's no deal.
So it was a diplomatic pressure. It wasn't any sort of deal that they made, but
a diplomatic pressure on January 22nd when he just straight up asked them to slash their prices, right?
Yeah, I will say, right. And you should be able to attest to this.
You know,
Trump is a very demanding presence, and as our president, I mean, look at just the difference in respect between how they treated Biden and how they treated Trump. Most countries are actually
I don't think
scared
anybody.
of Trump.
I don't think anybody respects Trump more than.
I
Biden.
actually think every one of the presidents respect Trump more. I mean, look at the deals that he's made with all of our should be friendly countries, and Biden could never have done that. I mean, that's besides the point.
Thank you so much for the $10 over on YouTube Super Chat. Yeah, I mean, I find it just very difficult to believe that other countries are going to respect a delusional fascist, civilly held liable rapist.
No. Please explain to me what fascism is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I typically define fascism in accordance with the 14 tenets as described in the literature. We could go over those 14 tenets, and we could see a sufficient combination applying to Donald Trump. We could take some time and do that. However, I would hopefully like to assume that the time will take to go through those 14
I'm just going to explain to you what fascism
and
is.
see how they apply to Trump can be something that we do after I finish what I started to say before you interrupted me. Does that work? Like, because I was like hopping in there to say, I don't think anybody's gonna, like have more respect for delusional fascists with like zero brain cells that is passing policy in our own country to redistribute wealth from the poor to the rich while concealing the fact that he's been on the Epstein file since May. And then you interrupted me like midway through that sentence to say, well, what's fascism? So I think hopefully, we could have both of those two conversations, just like not at the same time, so we don't just get absolutely lost in the sauce, So can you respond to what I said there before we have a conversation about what fascism is?
I will say, hold on, before you continue on, if you keep pandering on around your ideas and not getting straight to the point, no one's going to believe what you have to say. Okay, you have to get straight to the point. Just say what you mean. Fascism, say what it is. Go.
Okay, you asked me what fascism is. I told you that typically I define fascism in alignment with the 14 tenets as described in the literature, but it could be typically understood as like a far-right, ultra-nationalistic political ideology. Like
okay, I will define it for you. Okay, I'll define it for you.
I just did.
No, you didn't. You did not give clear definition. It's okay.
Well, when you're saying that I don't think that there's like one clear univocal definition of the term fascist. I think that we could like broadly associate it as a far right, authoritarian, ultra nationalist political ideology. But to like better understand what fascism is and how we see it in the world around us, like in historical governments and like even as I would suggest, like current day modern governments, would be like seeing its alignment with like the 14 tenets. The reason why there's not like one clear univocal definition of fascism is because exploring it historically and exploring it academically has led to like books being written to define what fascism is, right? And basically like the reduction of how we want to condense these ideas is understanding it related to 14 tenets. But we could also assume or describe like a loose definition of just being like a far right, authoritarian, ultra nationalist political ideology. And I just think that it's described or characterized by like 14 tenets. Right, because if we want to go into like a very on the point one sentence definition, we'll say it's like described by like a single party state, or it's described by aggressive nationalism and militarism, and it's suggested by suppression of opposition. See, it's hard to say that there are like certain necessary characteristics of this ideology, and that's why we typically understand it broken into like 14 tenets or characteristics.
Okay, I did just realize you mute my mic every time you talk. That's cool. That's a big number 4 of the tendencies, suppression of freedom. Good job there. But I will say, yeah, you're right on track there. Extreme nationalism, and yeah, really, it's just central power under one single party is the big one. That's one of the main ones, along with like censor freedom of speech, right?
Right, so, you're going through the tenets. Oh my God,
right.
Kent, come on.
You're
trying to tell me that I was doing something wrong by telling you that we typically
you didn't say anything.
14 tenets.
No. I wanted you to explain to the audience what that was, not just say the 14 tenets, because they don't really know. I might know.
So you're asking me to say what the tenets are?
That's what I wanted you to do.
Oh,
it was pretty obvious. Okay, but anyways,
I thought that you were asking for like more of a succinct, like single sentence definition. Obviously,
I mean, I could say the two main ones would be a single power, a main power under a single leader or a single party, and
so like a consolidation of power.
Yeah, and censorship of freedom of speech, which we have not seen
I could
either.
agree. I could agree that a consolidation of power and some type of censorship of opposition are going to be two predominant tenets of fascism.
Okay, so then why would you say that Trump is a fascist? Because there's none of this we've seen in his party.
Well, I mean, let's start off with the consolidation of power. I feel like there's a lot of really important points that we could bring up there. I mean, I'll just start with what I think is like a very obvious example of this. Obviously, it's going to be like a more encompassing like conversation that would include many other things, but we could start with this. You know, like a consolidation of power that we've seen from the Trump administration is a disdain for the Constitution. If they don't like it, you know, they'll just try to change it on their own without going through like the proper channels. Like, for instance, Donald Trump's executive order banning birthright citizenship for the children of undocumented immigrants, just like belligerently contradicted the 14th Amendment. And then he tried to get it like upheld by federal courts. It failed. He had federal judges like issue nationwide injunctions. And
Do you personally
okay,
believe
go ahead.
that when somebody comes in our country illegally, that they should be granted citizenship before being able to, or be forced to go back to their country? Do you believe that?
I don't understand like what that. So you're asking me if I support like a version of mass amnesty?
It is
Wait, 1 second.
obviously.
Let me finish. You're asking me if I support a version of mass amnesty? I do. I don't understand why my support for mass amnesty would be related to how Donald Trump has attempted to, in a way, consolidate power to the federal branch of our government by passing executive orders that explicitly contradict the Constitution.
Okay. Regardless of what you're talking about with the Constitution, I'm just asking you.
Why is that regardless?
Do you think no? Because right now the question that I'm asking at hand doesn't matter to that. Okay, I'm saying, do you think specifically
If it doesn't matter to
when
them,
somebody comes in our country illegally and breaks our laws, that's what it is. They have broken the law as soon as they come to our country illegally. Can you agree with that?
Yeah, it's like what 8 USC 1358.
Okay, yeah.
Misdemeanor upon undocumented entry. Sure, that's federal law.
Okay, right. So they've already broken our laws. Do you think that they should be granted citizenship before they are sent back to their country?
I mean, I don't even think that a lot of undocumented immigrants should be deported. I think that mass deportation is one of like the most like worst, most American last policies fucking ever. And I do support mass amnesty for a vast majority of all undocumented immigrants, 110%. And I'm going to be honest, Kent, I want to have a conversation with you about that. I think that arguing for mass deportation is likely one of the most challenging things to do in American politics today, to support like particular like policy and agendas. But like this is a deflection away from the point that I brought up. So how about we stay on topic first? And then we have like a long conversation about why mass deportation is like one of the worst policies we've seen from our government in modern American history. You asked me for an example of how the Trump administration has attempted to consolidate power to the federal branch. One very obvious attempt to do so was their executive order that explicitly contradicted the 14th Amendment in rescinding birthright citizenship for the children of undocumented immigrants.
Okay, so I haven't read up on that one. Hold on. Due process. I'm not going to read into the 14th Amendment. I should know that. I'm about to go to law school, but I don't yet.
I'll just tell you everything that you need to know, and you can fact check me later. So the 14th Amendment guarantees birthright citizenship to almost everybody born on American soil. The only people it didn't guarantee it to when it was drafted was like indigenous Americans, which was overturned by a law later passed by Congress in the 19th century, and then B, diplomats or other individuals from other countries that are kind of immune to American law. They're not subject to the jurisdiction of the state, therefore their children born on American soil don't have birthright citizenship. But you know, when this amendment was passed in 1865, it was kind of a reaction to the Dred Scott case, where we had a member of our Supreme Court rule that Black Americans don't qualify for birthright citizenship because it was understood as like common law of the land, pulling from jus soli, which was English common law. If you were born on the soil of the king, then therefore you're subject to the king, and we just kind of upheld that when we colonized North America. But they finally codified it into law with the 14th Amendment as a way to kind of sign a peace treaty between the North and the South and let the Southern states back into the Union. And even on like the floor of the Congress when they were debating the 14th Amendment, particularly for the birthright citizenship aspect of it, they argued that yes, this is something that we're doing in reaction to a judge denying birthright citizenship to Black people, so we want this to include Black people. But they also specifically debated including the children of immigrants born on American soil, Chinese immigrants. That was a big piece of contention at the time because of this guy named Kim. And yeah, they all agreed unanimously that this will also apply to immigrants. And I mean, that's been upheld in case law ever since 1865 until Donald Trump passed that executive order rescinding birthright citizenship for the children of undocumented immigrants. I just don't think that there's a single legal argument to instantiate that the 14th Amendment doesn't cover the children of undocumented immigrants. And there's no precedent or case law to suggest that either.
So do you think it was fascism when the 13th Amendment was created to end slavery? Because before then we had slavery amendments as well. Do you think that's fascism as well?
I'm confused on what you're saying.
So again, the 13th Amendment kind of completely contradicted amendments we had before then. Three-fifths compromise was a main one. Basically supporting slavery. Do you think that creating the 13th Amendment, changing the 13th Amendment, or the Constitution is also fascism? That's a counter towards the Constitution. Don't you think it should be changed? Don't you think that part of the reason the Constitution is so great is because it can be amended?
I think that like a better argument for you to run here would be like Abraham Lincoln, like suspending habeas corpus. But I mean, if you're talking about Congress passing, the 13th
That's a good
Amendment,
one.
if you're talking about Congress passing like the 13th Amendment, I don't understand why that would be fascist or anything related to authoritarianism.
Well,
because
you
that was
said-
like one second, because that was like following like the proper legal channels, like that was ratified by 75% of Congress. It went through the proper legal channels. It went through the checks and balances. It was ratified by Congress and signed into law. Which is very distinct and different than Donald Trump, who's attempting to consolidate that power that is typically prescribed to a ratification from Congress to quote unquote amend the Constitution by passing an executive order, then attempting to like pressure judges into agreeing to not rescind said EO. Big difference there, buddy.
Your chat is so funny. Well, anyways, no. So I think that calling him a fascist, for one, that's a crazy claim. Okay, that's like me saying you're a racist because of one thing that you say. It's a crazy claim.
Well, the thing is like I'm definitely for a lot of people, you can call them racist because of one thing. Like this one thing that a white man does is say white men are superior to black men. Okay, call him a racist. But like I said, this isn't like my only argument for the idea that Trump is a fascist. It's just simply one example of one tenet of fascism to do with the consolidation of power to the federal branch of government. Like I could go on and on all day about that shit.
Okay, but see,
it's not only the it's not only the executive order that violated and contradicted the Constitution. It was also the illegal deportation of Abrigo Garcia. It was also his call to straight up terminate all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution in December of 2022. It was also, right, on J6 when he attempted to steal the election from Biden with his fake electorates plot. We've seen this so much. There's many descriptions of an attempt to consolidate power to the federal branch of government that we could go over and over and over and over again and again and again. So, just because I gave you one example doesn't mean that's the only example. And all the examples I just gave you are multiple examples of one tenet of fascism. See, like we could talk about other tenets too. I could yap all day long and give you multiple reasons, multiple examples, multiple explanations of how Donald Trump nearly fits all 14 tenets. But if you want to kind of go over, the other examples I gave you to demonstrate that he fulfills that one tenet of an attempt to consolidate power to one person or one branch of our government, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, I just don't see how contradicting something in the Constitution can even remotely break one of those tenets. I know you're saying bring power to the federal government, but I don't see
it's a consolidation of power that is supposed to like rest either in the power vested in the Constitution, the power vested in the courts, or the power vested in Congress into one branch of government. It's a consolidation of power. That's literally what the term consolidation means.
Okay, but how is he trying to do that by trying to amend or change an amendment? That doesn't make sense.
Because who amends the Constitution?
Our three branches of power. That's why there are three branches.
What is like what branch plays like the predominant role in amending the Constitution? And I don't know. I don't think that. I think it's just one branch. Actually, it's one branch of our government.
No, it's definitely passed through the other two. But
what is passed through? What is passed through SCOTUS when amending the Constitution?
I actually don't know. Do you know the process on this?
I mean, the last time I looked in the process, you just got to get it approved by, 75% of Congress, and it's ratified and added. That's about it.
Okay, then. So again, that's a play on separation of powers because
Only
Trump is
Congress,
in the
right?
executive
So,
branch.
so,
Well,
so, so what branch
no.
of the government amends and changes the Constitution?
The legislative.
Yeah, the legislative branch,
Okay,
Congress.
but then if
So
he
do we
comes
see
up
here
with
how,
the
like, you're
idea-
asking me how somebody that's not in Congress, one man, compared to nearly 500 men and women, trying to change the Constitution from a position of power where they do not possess that privilege to do so is an attempt to consolidate power to one branch or one person? It's
No,
common
because
sense.
he knew that it's very obvious that he knew that he would not be able to do it. He didn't sign an executive order on that.
He signed
It's
an
exec-
executive order to ban birthright citizenship for the children of undocumented immigrants. You didn't know this?
I don't know. I didn't read into that.
Yeah, it's happened in January.
Well, then I redact my clause on that. But I'm not saying he's fascist just based on that one argument.
Well,
I mean,
I've already went over this. You already
but also,
pulled that
I
card
will
of
say-
Dean. You just have one singular example / argument to demonstrate that he's
Okay,
fascist.
so-
I went over how I could yap all day about how he fulfills the other 13 tenets, and I even have like another billion examples that he fulfills this one tenet of consolidation of power. I'll be super quick, just repeating what I've already said. January 6th, fake electorate plot attempting to steal the election from Biden. December of 2022, when he explicitly called for the termination of the Constitution. Illegally deporting Rodrigo Garcia, violating the due process of Venezuelan immigrants and sending them back to Venezuela, then having a federal judge rule that he could hold their administration in contempt because he ignored their ruling not to remove them. Blackbagging college students and then putting them in ICE detention centers 1,000 miles away, even at you after having circuit courts rule that they couldn't take them any more than 45 miles away for the first 48 hours of detention. I mean, dude, there's so many examples of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I'm not reading into all the examples you just listed. I couldn't even listen to how fast you were talking. But regardless of what you're saying on fascism, okay, for one, to call somebody a fascism, it's an insane insult. Because what he's doing for our country, regardless of the little things, amazing. The big outcomes that he's developing, amazing. I actually would argue that he's probably one of the best presidents in the last 50 years. I've seen a lot of polls say this. And back to sorry. Back to what we were just talking about on the 14th Amendment. I just lost my train of thought. Damn. So, oh yeah, sorry. That's where I was going. I forgot. You were talking so long. Executive orders have been signed by thousands of presidents. I don't know why you think that's fascism. That's happened a lot.
So, dude, oh my gosh. So if a white person says the N-word, is that racist?
I mean, sure, for the sake of argument.
But words have been spoken by so many white people. I'm a white person speaking words right now. Does that mean all the words that I'm saying right now are racist too? The relation to the argument you just made was I'm pointing towards one specific executive order signed in by Donald Trump.
Do you think
like explicitly like an indication of fascism because it consolidated power to one branch and circumnavigated Congress, or was at least an attempt to? That doesn't mean that all other EOs are fascist. No, specifically EOs that attempt to circumnavigate our checks and balances and break the explicitly contradict the Constitution are fascist. And then also your responses there about white people saying the N-word were very questionable. I think I heard a sure, and apparently some people in my comment section heard for the sake of the argument. Definitely questionable.
Yeah, we're not going to get into that, but I will say, do you think that it's racist for a black person to say the N-word?
I thought you just said we're not going to get into that.
No, not what I said. I'm just to get your thoughts on that. Do you think that's racist?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can't really explain that one though, because again, it was created not even really by white people. So I mean, again, I don't. That entire argument is just so stupid. But
I don't think it's too stupid. I mean, it's not necessarily regardless. I'll give you a little bit of insight insofar as why it's not stupid. The N-word was used as like a tool of oppression to systemically exploit, enslave, kill, and torture black people for hundreds of years in this country. It was just like one part of a multifaceted scheme to further dehumanize these humans into an existence socially as non-humans at the hand of the white man, to lend towards their exploitation, to lend towards their torture, to lend towards many systems of oppression. And it was a tool used by white people against black people. So I think when like white people use that term today, when we still have particular systems of oppression that still do exist and oppress black people in America, it's just further lending towards those same systems that it did historically. But I don't really think it's going to lend towards those same systems when a black person uses it. But I mean, there's differing thoughts on this. If you ask, black Americans on the left their thoughts on black people using the N-word, some will say I think that it's fine. Some will say I think that everybody should stop using it. So if you want to explore more takes on that, I mean, I'd definitely direct you to black creators on the platform.
Yeah, I would say that that's the best take. If some people can't use it, no one can use it. Again, that's just me, but that's just really stupid for one. If it's oppressive, if it's so like offensive to you, then why do you say it yourself? That makes no sense. It's like calling myself fat. So anyways, and again,
so like when a black person calls another black person like the N-word, like they're not doing it to dehumanize the other black person. They've adopted.
and do you
the term,
think white people
reclaimed it,
are?
and have used it as as reference of camaraderie. And there's not only that distinction in intent, but there's also a distinction in like the impact of said usage of the term. And like, yeah, I gave you the historical explanation. The only reason why that word exists was a tool of dehumanization to use against black people. And I mean, if you want to argue that, well, it can be the case that like white people say the N-word today without the intention of like the dehumanizing black people, like I agree, a lot do, like
100%.
that's something that that I did when I was 14. That's like that was like something big a while ago, was screenshots of me saying the N-word when I was 14. So I definitely think white people use the N-word today without the intention of like being racist, but we also have to make a distinction between intention and impact. And I think that the impact of white people continuing to use that term, even in lack of an intent, just continue to perpetuate the same system that has roots in history, 400, 500 years ago.
Well, realistically, I think it's stupid to ban a word from the Latin language, which literally just simply means a color. Okay, that's really silly.
When you say ban,
But-
do you just like suggest not to use because of like moral implications?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying how
Like
often.
you shouldn't use that term.
No,
I
I'm
think that
saying-
that's fine to do. Obviously, we could probably agree that there's a lot of words and phrases that we shouldn't say because of their impact, implications, etc. Like
Yeah, but
like,
name
we do
another
this-
word in the
we-
English
we-
language
We
that
do
you
this. We do this all the time. Like this isn't mutually exclusive to slurs too. Like for instance, like there's like a particular like set of words, that I think we agree that we shouldn't use. Like for instance, coming on live and screaming about how you love Hitler, et cetera, et cetera. Like those are words and phrases that like I bet we could agree people shouldn't say. Saying screaming bomb in an airport, that's some shit we think should be banned. I mean, I just don't understand why like people on the right like really freak out so much. When we have conversations about words that we shouldn't use because of their impact, but then are just like totally fine with their grandma saying that they shouldn't use the F word, or totally fine with law enforcement agencies telling you that you shouldn't scream bomb in an airport. But I mean, we could go on all day about that. You got a flag, Mr. Kent. In fact, you got my live stream a flag too.
You had me muted. Anyways, yeah, I mean, it's honestly a stupid conversation to have, but I just think it's silly to have one side of the world say we can only use this word. It's kind of like, I don't know, separating America. Like again, because America is supposed to be the great diversity mosh pit, right? So
Separating America.
I mean, I feel like that's almost as bad as how separated our political parties are
So
at
you,
this
you
time.
so
Like
so
like
are,
if you
wait,
look
so
back in the hold on,
separation
hold
on
on,
the
hold on, hold on,
basis
hold on, hold on.
separation here.
Hold on.
Are you
If you
saying
look
that
back in
our
like the
country
90s,
are you saying that our country would like be like more like together? There'd be like more people together as like one unit of white people who are screaming the N-word every day?
no, I'm saying if you're going to make such a big deal of to get rid of it, then get rid of it entirely. Nobody says it because again, like I was saying, it's created a lot of separations in America, just the same as, and this is honestly a driving impact on
So
separating our political parties,
are you saying that
like
you want to
liberals.
say the N-word because
No,
white
that
people
is
say
not
the
what I'm
N-word?
saying. I just said get rid of it entirely. Stop twisting my words, bro. No,
I mean, I'm
it's
just confused with the view.
no, I'm saying get rid of it entirely. Why do you allow one certain, oh, but we can say it, but you can't? Again, that separates. And what that does is it looks just like our political parties now, like Republican versus Democrat. Look how separated it is compared to like the 80s.
Well,
Have you seen
I
how
gave you
crazy?
I gave you an explanation on this earlier. I don't think that you were listening to me. I mean, if you want to go back to my explanation, because honestly, like I'm not going to give it again. I gave you like a pretty like thorough explanation of why it is the case that I think it's a very acceptable view to suggest that white people shouldn't be able to say the N word, but I don't really take issue with black people saying the N word. Earlier, I gave you like a pretty nuanced view as it how that term related to like an historical usage and perpetuating systems of exploitation on the exploitation and oppression on the basis of race, the outcomes that we saw in history because of the usage of said tool, and the outcomes that we still see today, and who is using the tool as a weapon of hate and exploitation, and who is now reclaiming said word to demonstrate camaraderie and shared experiences as a victim of said system of oppression.
Okay, but nobody
I'm not
in
going to give you that whole
America,
I'm not going to give you that whole explanation again. I mean, feel free to go back in my life and re-listen to
nobody
it.
in this world has suffered from slavery or the usage of that word in slavery. So I don't think that that's a good argument because again, nobody alive. Yeah, you could. Hold on, it just closed me
There's,
out.
I mean, I don't know why you'd make like such a like an abundantly like ridiculous claim. Right now, black people are being sold in chattel slavery in Libya. So,
Yeah, okay. Outside of this world, slavery is everywhere. Not just black people.
outside of this
Every
world,
single, or
so are you
outside of
saying
our
that
country.
there's slavery on the
Outside
moon?
of our country, bro. Come on. Outside of our country, slavery is everywhere, and it has been forever, and it's never going to go away.
I
Okay.
mean, like even
Honestly,
like
actually,
slavery in this country.
slavery.
I mean, I think that like child sex trafficking, that's slavery, man.
Yeah, that's slavery. Actually, slave rates are actually the highest they've ever been, and I think last year was the number that I read. So
You think
I
that we had higher rates of slavery in America last
in
year
the
than in
world,
1840?
in the world,
On the global stage, I'm not so sure. I haven't looked at
look
data on
that
the
up.
global stage.
I saw. I just.
And I
Okay,
also
this
don't
is super
understand how this
random.
relates to our conversation. Honestly, Ken, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I think that you're doing something very similar to what a lot of people on the right have done when I get into debates with him.
Right.
It's where you come up here expecting to have a conversation about your views, why you support Trump, why I don't. We went over fascism because you called me ridiculous for calling Trump a fascist. I bring up a consolidation of power. I give you more examples than you could handle, and you quite frankly didn't have a response to a single one. And I mean, you even brought up that you wanted to have a conversation about immigration policy, mass deportation, mass amnesty. But then it's like the next step is like, well, actually, let's talk about slurs. Emily Wilson did the same thing. Andrew Wilson, funny enough, did the same thing to Parker. It's just kind of like the typical like line of thought for a lot of people on the right, because you don't expect me to be able to answer your questions and give you an explanation on these things. But
I
I mean,
actually had
I've
no
spent the
idea.
last like 10 or 15 minutes giving you my explanation on these things. I've re-explained to you twice where the N-word comes from, what it exists in America today as, and how it's been used as a tool to generate real-world material harm, and even a little bit of an explanation of how we can explain why black people, it's permissible for them to use it, but not permissible to white people to use it. You had me give that to you twice, and you didn't even respond to that explanation. You just went on to say that we have more slavery today than we did, 200 years ago. I mean, I just feel like you're really trying to detract from, the conversations that you came up here to have. And you rather want to like run that pretty typical argument that people on the right do of saying, what about slurs?
I don't even know how we got on that argument. I don't think it was entirely me. So I don't remember. You can go back and look in the live, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, well, we'll get back to immigration then, if
Quickly,
that's what you
before
want
we
to talk
move
about.
on, I want to thank a handful of people here. Sharon, thank you for the $20 over on YouTube Super Chat. I appreciate you so much for the love. Sharon says he doesn't get to decide what is a big deal, speaking from his privilege perch. Well, I mean, I think that, it's more so just like existing in like ignorance, if that makes any sense. I just wish that people were, better informed, better educated. I mean, that's why I do what I do. I appreciate you for the $20. That is incredibly kind of you. As well as, oh my gosh, yo, Christian, thank you so much for the $200 donation over on PayPal. Mr. Christian, that is incredibly kind of you. If we could please have everybody watching show some love to Christian down below in the comment section, that would mean the most to me, Christian. You were so incredibly kind. That is so much fucking money. Jesus, dude. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, while we're hopping into the continuation of this conversation with Kent down here, everybody, please show some love to Christian down below in that comment section, literally right now. Thank you so much for the love, Christian. Holy crap, 2,000 Christian W's down below. As well as Emma, thank you for the $10 over on PayPal. Emma says, thanks for the entertainment while I'm at work, Dean. Keep gentle parenting these Trump supporters. I think I've been a little bit more chill, a little bit more gentle recently. I'm enjoying it. It's better for my cortisol levels. I was cortisol maxing there for a couple months by just freaking out every time I had anybody up here. But I appreciate you for that love, Emma. As well as Alex, I appreciate you for the $10 over on PayPal. Alex says, can't watch long. I'm at work, but had to stop by. I love you so much. You are amazing. I love you too, Alex. Thank you for the love. Continue to show some love to Christian down below, but also make sure we're spamming some W's for Emma, Alex, and Sharon. And if you're watching and you want to support me, you can find my Venmo, my PayPal, and the link tree in my bio on TikTok, or in the pinned message over on the YouTube stream. I appreciate everyone so much for all of the love. One more person I'd like to thank. Here's Mary, 13 seconds ago, the $10 over on Venmo. Thank you for the love, Mary. Show some love to Mary as well. And Mr. Kent, let's go back to it. I think I did want to talk to you about, immigration policy, particularly mass deportation. So what are your thoughts on the mass expulsion of undocumented immigrants from America?
I mean, okay, so let's just say a bunch of people break a bunch of crime. A bunch of people break the law. Sorry.
Right.
They should be punished correctly.
It depends on what the law is.
Okay. Let's just say. I mean, you said it earlier. It was a misdemeanor, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if the act of breaking the law is literally showing up in our country, don't you think that should be reversed? I mean, that's just so simple. It's just so simple to me.
Okay, the act of
Illegal.
breaking the law shows up in this country. Should it be reversed or changed? So yeah, absolutely. 110%. No, we actually agree here. I just think that, like, quote unquote reversing that action doesn't always mean like punishing or removing or issuing a ticket. Like the way that we reverse the act of like black people breaking the law and going into quote unquote white-owned businesses as white-only businesses as protests during Jim Crow law era segregation was by ending Jim Crow era segregation. So I mean, I don't think that every crime always should be punished, if that makes any sense. I think that's a little bit too much of like a blanket take. But as it relates to a conversation about mass deportation, let me ask you a question. Do you think it's like the obligation of the state to write and enforce laws that makes the country better?
To write and enforce laws that make the country better? No, I mean, actually,
People in the country better?
The purpose of the state.
It's like an obligation of the state to write and enforce laws that makes the country better, the people in the country better off, etc.
Okay, when you say state, you're talking about the country, not literally a state. Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Do you think that this would imply that if there exist laws that make the country... Sorry, I get it in a notification from TikTok. So this means if the state does have laws that make the country worse, that make the people in the country worse off, that we should get rid of those laws, or at the bare minimum reform them, right?
Okay, so where are you going with this?
You'll see it. I just want to see. So you do agree to that?
Yeah, in the general sense, if a law makes life worse in the country, but again, there's stipulations to that. But
what are the stipulations?
But I don't know. You'd have to give me a specific instance.
Okay. Well, I mean, one law that I think makes this country a whole lot worse is mass deportation. I think that every single one of the outcomes of mass deportation is negative. And then like the few positive outcomes of mass deportation, A, are not exclusive to mass deportation and could be achieved through other policy, and B, could be achieved better and faster through other policy. So I think when we just kind of like look at it on the broad scale, is mass deportation a good or bad law? The cons outweigh the pros every single time.
Okay. Explain further. Like, what would your solution be then? If you
Well,
see that
we
mass
can
deportation is bad, what is your solution to get the illegal people out of our country who are
make sure there's zero
consistently
undocumented immigrants.
consistently breaking our laws? I mean, realistically, in a perfect world, yes.
Check
if we wanna
this out. Mass amnesty. Boom. We offer a pathway of residency or citizenship to any and all undocumented immigrants that don't have prior violent offenses, outstanding warrants from other countries, or pretty crazy criminal offenses on their records. That's what we should do. It's better for them. It's better for us. It's better for the country as a whole.
Well, actually, sorry, but increasing the population in our country is actually a bad thing if it's too many, which it has been, specifically where I live. It has been lately. They take jobs for lower wages under the table because they're illegal. Okay. So all of these construction companies that are local, which I live in the middle of nowhere, so there's a lot, right? They pay under the table, which is illegal, and they're honestly taking part of the illegal activities, and I think they should be punished as well. But they're paying under the table, untaxed, lower wages to these illegal immigrants, which take jobs from local people who actually need jobs, and it increases homelessness and a higher population. Increases needs of what?
You're telling me here that undocumented immigrants are paid lower wages because they're undocumented, and undocumented immigrants are more likely to work under the table because they're undocumented. Are those your two claims?
Yeah, basically, I see a lot of that, actually.
So both of the two claims that you just made are true. I agree with both of them. They do get paid lower wages because they're undocumented. They don't have as much bargaining power as residents or citizens. They are more likely to work under the table because they're undocumented. They don't qualify for federal benefits and they can't file a tax return. Check this shit out. This is why I support mass amnesty. This right here is why I support mass amnesty. Get paid lower wages, more likely to work under the table because they're undocumented. Give them documentation without any material change in their employment. They're all of a sudden more likely to make more money and contribute more to our GDP. And they're more likely to work over the table and receive those benefits from our federal government. So they're contributing more in taxable revenue.
Okay, yeah, but then how do you get rid of the problem that it's taking jobs from people? Because again, the job market right now, terrible. Not for me specifically, but I have friends who can't get a job anywhere. So, how do you argue with that one?
So why did you call it a problem? What would be the negative outcomes of naturalizing undocumented immigrants? They're making more same as anybody else in our country right now, and they're paying even more in taxes, making our country better off. What's the problem with that? Because you call that a problem. I just what's the problem?
Okay. Again, taking jobs from American citizens.
Well, they would be American citizens.
Okay, yes, but again, they're not legal Americans. They didn't come here legally. Okay, for one,
so they didn't come here legally. Therefore,
they broke the law,
and
and
they're
they're just
country
like
worse off to remove them. I thought that you agreed earlier that we shouldn't enforce legislation. We should change legislation that makes this country worse off. Because I bet you could acknowledge that if we were to forcefully deport the 8.3 million laborers and 12 million consumers that are undocumented, our economy is going to experience massive losses. The Center for American Progress tells us that the total GDP contribution of undocumented workers is 8.3 trillion. Sorry, is 1.1 trillion through 1.7 trillion dollars per year, and B, it costs a shit ton of money. It's close to $2 trillion over 10 years, and C, it just make our economy less productive because we left less people to make the goods we need and less people to sell the goods inside of our markets. So I mean, it just really shake up our producers here. I mean, these are all very negative outcomes. I mean, that seems to lead us to the conclusion that if we did a mass deportation, the American economy would be significantly worse off. But what comes with an economy that's significantly worse off is more poverty. What comes with more poverty, more crime. So at the end of the day, right, our manufacturers are going to be destabilized. They're also going to be selling less goods, meaning their overall growth and contributions to our country's GDP is going to go down, meaning that poverty is going to go up, meaning that crime is going to go up. I mean, this all seems to be a pretty ugly picture that we're painting here. That's going to be caused by mass deportation. And it seems like the only argument that you have to justify mass deportation is to say, well, they broke the law when they came in. Okay, all right, I agree. They did. They committed a misdemeanor. You don't care about that. You put a felon in the Oval Office. I say we focus on proactive solutions here.
I will say his felonies are very silly. It's actually right down my alley in the accounting. It was literally just 38 counts of misdocumentation of a of a charge, but that has nothing to do. I just wanted to comment on that.
That's not technically true. What you just said isn't technically true. You're describing the misdemeanor of what he committed in the state of New York. The felony was falsification of business records with an intent to commit a second step crime. So that's not technically all the way true.
Well, yeah, but that's what that meant. Anyways, it happens all the time. I've literally falsely recorded things before.
You didn't
It happens.
you didn't meet the statute of the felony in the state of New York. It also would require a second step intent to conceal the documentation to commit a crime.
Okay. Well, anyways, that's not
Right. He's
where
also
we're
held civilly liable for SA. He's pardoned people that try to kill cops on J6.
at. Okay, I've got to leave in 5 minutes. I got to go to class, but let's finish this before I go because I've got to. All right, sorry, I have class at 4. All right, so to what you said about mass deportation, let me remember what you said again. It was something about like
It just sucks because it
yeah,
hurts
it
our
decreases-
economy, it increases
yeah.
poverty, and it weakens
Okay,
our
but where are your facts on that? Okay,
The Center for American Progress, PNAS, and just general macroeconomic trends that we could speak about principally.
okay, I can't look those up right now, but I think specifically that when you send these people back to, okay, so what are the main ones from like what, Mexico? It's like the majority of
I'm not
legal
aware.
immigrants.
I'm not aware.
Okay, but okay. When you send them back, they're not just gonna stay there, right? They're gonna come through the legal way. You see that happening a lot right now. I've actually seen a lot.
That's just going to
lately.
cause more undocumented entry. Come a next president that doesn't support or uphold.
No, coming
mass
back the
deportation.
legal way.
Yeah,
No,
so you mean you're just going to backlog the already terrible legal systems that already exist? And
I think
also,
in a
by the way,
perfect world-
the main incentive for undocumented entry in the first place is because they have viewed the legal means of entry as unattainable for them, either because it takes too long or it's too expensive. So I actually don't think we'd see a lot of those people just getting back in the legal means of entry. And if the end result you want to seek is them getting into the legal means of entry, that's basically a description of mass amnesty, plus the massive inefficiency of removing them from the economy for 20 years first, right?
Well, we've already seen lower illegal passes, right?
yeah,
They're
yeah.
not coming in, not even nearly as the same rates, right? That's amazing. Okay,
I don't think that's amazing.
So do you just think max out the population in America, let everybody?
False dichotomy. The reason I don't think it's great is because of what's caused it.
What? By
Because
what?
what has
What's
caused the reduction in undocumented entry.
elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think that Donald Trump hasn't really done much to reduce undocumented entry with the use of sturdy policy in the long term. I just think that it's been his fascism that has reduced undocumented entry, like violating the human and constitutional rights of immigrants and undocumented immigrants that are already in this country, like playing judge, jury, and executioner and sending Abrigo Garcia to be beaten, tortured for 3 weeks in El Salvador, or keeping Mahmoud Khalil caught up in an ICE detention center for 3 months, even though he's a legal green card holder. I think that structured the incentive for undocumented entry and is, kind of now scaring undocumented immigrants by telling them that they're going to have a lower quality of life if they come into the country. And I mean, I think that's the same reason why we've seen a reduction in travel for business or leisure, tourism, etc.
I mean, I have nothing to say towards that specific argument. I mean, I don't know about all that, but you've obviously read way more into the, mistreatment of illegals. But again, I think in a perfect world, if you remove every illegal immigrant in America, okay, it's just boom, gone, right? And then encourage them, which is what we've been doing, to come into America legally, we will have a better economy. And I think we'll see better benefits from that, other than just like, oh, okay, yeah, you're all good, guys. Go to your local DMV and get a card and you're chilling. That's not going to happen, for one. When you grant national amnesty, most of the people might not even know that thing exists, for one, okay? They can't speak English for the most part. So again, I think that there should be tests required to become an American citizen. I mean, they should know some of our laws. Like my dad is a judge. There's no telling how many times he's had people come into his court who have traffic law violations, and they broke, a simple, driving law or whatever, and they don't even have a license. They don't even know the road laws.
So you're telling me that maybe if somebody tries to drive on the roadways without a driver's license, and then they get caught for that, and their answer is, well, they didn't know they had to have a driver's license. That should be disqualifying for citizenship. So answer this. When Donald Trump passed an executive order to ban birthright citizenship, which explicitly contradicted the 14th Amendment, he was then interviewed by ABC, and they asked him if he has to hold to the Constitution, and he said that he didn't know if he does or not. That sounds a little bit worse than not knowing you need to have a license to drive on the roadway. Should that be barring Trump from serving as our president?
No, I just think that, again, I haven't watched.
So rules for thee, but not for the most important human alive. Wow.
Okay. Tell me how him saying that, for one, endangers lives of others.
Oh, wow. Really?
Tell me how. Okay. Hold on. Would you feel safe driving on a highway full of people who can't even read our signs, for one? Our highway
Actually,
signs?
road signs are like meant to be able to be understood by anybody just by looking at them. So
right,
so
but
road
they don't
signs
know
are
that.
road signs are
Okay, for one.
visual.
Okay, if you don't take
you don't like
you don't take any driving
it's
exam.
not something like it's you do like you know that by looking at the signs they're meant to be visual.
Okay, so how do
anybody-
you know that an orange sign means construction? How do you know that? It's not because you were just
because
born
like the
with an innate.
like I mean typically it would be like combined with symbolization on the sign.
Right, it's because you know that it's orange. You took a driving course that probably taught
What are
you
you
that.
telling me that like people on the roadway should have to take a driving course? I agree.
Yeah, and
Like, you
this
should have
is
to do a
this
license
is a
to be on
big
the roadway. It's
problem.
fucking duh.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So that's a big thing where I live specifically because legal immigration is really high where I live.
Yeah. Guess what? They can't fucking qualify to take that test. So therefore, they're more likely to drive on the roadways without proper documentation. I actually fucking agree. That's why, once again, I support mass amnesty. Do we see how mass amnesty is the solution to all of our problems? Oh, they're more likely to work under the table because they don't qualify for federal benefits like Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. Give them residency, give them citizenship. All of a sudden, they do qualify for those benefits, and they're more likely to work over the table. Oh, they could garner lower wages on average, reducing median real wages because they have less bargaining power because they're not a citizen or resident. Well, give them citizenship, give them residency, so then they have more bargaining power. So then all of a sudden, real median wages are increased on average. Oh, they're more likely to drive on the roadways because in many states they don't qualify for like a driver's license, CDL, etc. Well, just give them residency, give them citizenship, give them the ability to qualify for those things just like citizens do, and then all the fucking sudden, guess what? They're going to go out and do it at the same rates we do. Not to mention, I actually don't believe that undocumented immigrants are more likely to drive on the roadways without a driver's license compared to citizens. Because when we look at the crime stats from PNAS, they're 2.5 times less likely to commit violent criminal offenses, 3 times less likely to commit property criminal offenses, than like 3 times less likely to commit petty criminal offenses. And I don't know if that include a misdemeanor of driving without a driver's license, but the trend seems to follow that you would have to demonstrate a pretty high burden of proof here to describe and prove your claim that they're more likely to drive on the roadways without a driver's license. But I think you got to go to class. I don't want to make you late, bro. If you got to dip, no worries.
Yeah, all right. Well, it was a good talk anyways. I had more questions, but I do have to go.
Yeah, man. Have
good
a
discussion. Sure.
Thanks for the convo. Have a fun time in class, bro. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
We're going to move on to the next guest, guys. Make sure to opt in.